everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. If you're interested in what I have to say about Mara in terms of what I think in the near future over the next 12, perhaps to even 18 months, please check out my video here that I made 2 weeks ago. I generally don't like to use these something to the moon title, but I just wanted to basically simplify my thoughts here. So please check out this video. It's about 38 minutes long. I'm sorry it's a little bit long for you, but I really try to unpack a lot of thoughts in terms of cycles, in terms of different types of analysis, including my thoughts on elite wave targets and everything. Like there's a lot of things that are in that video. Please check it out. I'm gonna make this as brief as possible because I had that video as reference in terms of what the heck I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna go relatively fast here. This is a monthly chart of Mara, giving you the Fibonacci retracement levels and extension levels up here from its previous high down to a cycle low. Right? And what you're going to see here is that it's basically just been bouncing between these two Fibonacci levels at the 0.382 around 34 bucks, as well as the 0.136 around 14 bucks. So it's just been bouncing range bound here for about 6 months now. And right now is getting a little bit, rejected here at the 0.236 level around 22 bucks. Is trying to get above of it. There's a lot of resistance over here, but I have reasons to believe that we would probably push through. Minimally, we'll probably end up getting back to the top of this range over here, but I really do think there's a lot of energy that's being built up that can potentially just push price up a lot higher, potentially even reach to previous all-time high, or maybe even higher. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, if you want my thoughts, please watch that video that I just showed you. One reason why I think that there might be momentum coming is because price has just kind of gone sideways for about 6 months, and kind of like how price has gone sideways here for about like 3 to 4 months, right? But whale inflow throughout the entire time has been increasing here per this Black Cat L3 banker fund flow trend oscillator, including the month of May. This is actually an increase here for the institutional accumulation. If you look at the data from fintel.io, there might be a little bit of delay here, but it did also show a sizable increase here in terms of institutional ownership for the stock Mara, and which fits the data that I'm seeing here on the Black Cat fund flow indicator here, right? A couple other things I've shown you before. I'm not going to be too wordy about it, but if I just show the Ichimoku cloud, I really think that this area over here is very similar to this area over here. You have a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross, the blue is crossing above the red, which is the same thing that happened over here. And once this happened, it consolidated sideways for a little while, but then when it really breaks out, right? So this bullish cross over here could potentially precipitate a longer term bull trend that could potentially push through the cloud, push through all of these Fibonacci retracement level, potentially even hit some of the Fibonacci extension levels up here. This is a Bitcoin miner, so when things get parabolic, it could get very parabolic potentially. And so far, if you just look at it, it just looks like it's just form a higher high, higher low, higher high, and just form a higher low right here, tapping this Fibonacci level. So far, there's really nothing concerning about this price action, except for the fact that if you bought at the top of the range over here, and you're probably going to felt a lot of pain down here at the bottom of the range, right? Right now, we're getting to the middle of the range. We're seeing a little bit of resistance here, but price is actually conquering the Tenkan and Kijun over here. The Tenkan over here is probably around. Let me turn on some of the numbers back on over here. Tenkan number is around 20.63. So 20.6, you're going to notice is a pretty important confluence area. 20.63, and also the Kijun down at 18.6, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is if you look at the Bollinger Band, basically what you're seeing here is that is still above the 20-month moving average, and the Bollinger Band is still for the most part expanding, right? So this is going to allow price to go up a little bit higher. I think the upper Bollinger Band currently is around 25.7. It's probably going to end up serving a little bit as a magnet up there, right? But don't forget that number that I just showed you with the monthly Tenkan, which is the 20.6. That was a pretty important number. And also 22, which is the Fibonacci level here. Don't forget those numbers. I'm going to go through a lot of these different indicators here one at a time here. But as you can see, the Tenkan Kijun cross very similar to last cycle. And also if you look at the Bollinger Band appearance also is very similar to last cycle over here and over here. Like I think there's a lot of correlate between the two areas over here. But let's look at different time frames here. I'm just going to pull out the Ichimoku cloud here again. And I'm going to start with looking at the 2-day. What you're going to see here in the 2-day is you see that we're also trying to break above resistance, right? The bottom of the Ichimoku cloud here is 20.8, right? And so far it's above 20.8. So, a little bit of confluence of 20.6 with the Tenkan line of the monthly Ichimoku cloud, which is, a little bit interesting. You have a lot of these Tenkan Kitchen support down here around 19. 19.7, 19.2, somewhere around there. So you starting to get a little bit more support down here to try and push price above this resistance level up here, around 20.6 to 22, right? You're starting to get a little bit more support down here. Now, if you look at the, oh yeah, one more thing. If you look at the Bollinger Band here, I'm just going to get rid of the Ichimoku cloud. You can see the Bollinger Band here is also starting to get a little bit squeezy here. Like it's starting to get a little bit squeezy here. So it could potentially point to, whether or not there might be a potentially bigger move coming. It could keep getting squeezier and squeezier over the next few weeks before the next big move, but it looks like there might be a little bit of a tighter squeeze here. Right? If I go to the weekly chart, going back to the Ichimoku cloud, you can see that actually there's some constructive price action here. It got supported here at the Tenkan in around 19.4, and it got rejected up here around 22.4, which is the exact area around this Fibonacci level over here around 22, right? So you're getting some confluence in terms of a lot of support and resistance level that is building up. If I look at the bull market support band, you're going to see that price have finally got back above the bull market support band. Right down here has been trying to push above the bull market support band here for about 4 weeks here in a row. Was not able to do it. Finally, on the 5th week, you able to push back above. Got rejected so far here at the Fibonacci level up here at around price 22, right? But so far, you're building up more and more support here on the weekly, 2-day, and monthly chart to try to push you above this range over here. Naturally, what happened, because this whole thing looks like just a range between this Fibonacci level up here and this Fibonacci level down here, most likely it's going to end up after a bounce from here. Now, this is a very, very nice hammer candle. Didn't close the gap. I don't think this gap has to close. Very nice hammer bottom candle over here. So most natural progression is going to end up going back to the top of the range over here. It's probably going to end up breaking through here, and you have a lot of support that's being built up here. So it's probably going to end up hitting back in the range over here. And once it does that, we'll see how it reacts, because there's a lot of supply that already been eaten over here. So I think this resistance is going to get weaker and weaker, and once it pushes through, I think price will be able to push through a lot higher after that, right? But it's important that it's starting to reclaim some of these important supports over here, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. Another thing too, again, if you look at the Bollinger Band again here on the weekly, you can see this also getting a little bit squeezy. And when it gets squeezy, kind of like how it was over here, getting a little bit squeezy, a potential bigger move could be coming, right? It's just building a lot of energy because price has gone sideways for quite some time in the weekly chart, and there could be some bigger move here coming. Now, looking at the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, you're going to see that it's also starting to kind of break above the support over here, which is 20.6 is the Kijun line. Again, 20.6 is an important level, right? It's basically a squeeze between 26 and 22 right here. Is what it's doing, because there's a lot of very important support level that's really trying to build up over here, right? So another thing, I think if I show the Super Ichi cloud, you can also see this a little bit more clear. It also try to push above this Super Ichi cloud level around here, which is the Tenkan line over here, which is like 19.8, right? A lot of confluence of support over here that Mara is reclaiming. But you're still having a lot of resistance over around 22 or so. You also have a little bit higher resistance up here at this top of the Super Ichi cloud, which is around like 24. You do have a volume shove over here. But again, I think the natural progression in price is probably going to end up hitting the top of range. We'll see how it reacts. If it reacts well and it continues to eat supply, it can break through, right? So we'll see what happens. But you're basically squeezing between a lot of support and resistance here. That's why price today hasn't really moved all that much. If anything, it just got rejected from around 22 point something, and it just went down. But that's okay, right? So that's what I was trying to say. If I just zoom back out to the monthly chart, that's what I was trying to say in terms of the important level is 20.6 and 22, because that's where a lot of the support and resistance are, really being built up over here. We're basically just kind of stuck in that really tiny range over here until it breaks out, right? I'm going to take off the conversion baseline on taking occasion. And what I'm going to do here, while I have you, I did mention some of the Fibonacci level that could potentially hit, right? If it ends up breaking the cloud, if it ends up breaking through all-time high, I think you could potentially hit some of the higher, Fibonacci levels up here, 1.618, 2.618, really triple-digit Mara is possible if it breaks above all these things, right? Look at the institutional fund. I think there's a possibility that it could happen, right? And if you also just look at basically cycle behavior, I also think that there's a possibility that it could happen based on that, right? I try to do a Gann square. Let me pause this a little bit. I'm going to try to fix this. I was picking the wrong low. As when I drew this, I drew it from the previous cycle low here rather than, the current cycle low. So I'm going to do that. And when I do that, you're going to see that, and I'm also going to take away this Fibonacci level over here first for now. You're going to see that things have been respecting this Gann square here pretty well in terms of the angles, in terms of the arcs, right? So far the range has just been kind of ranging around the arc here downwards a little bit. I think there are still a few resistance level over here in terms of trying to push through this arc over here, which is going to be in the upper 20s, in terms of trying to get through the top of the cloud over here, which is going to be around like 42. And it might be a little bit lower if it ends up doing it later, right? It might be like in the 30s or so. But the cloud over here is around 42. There's also a horizontal resistance line here around 50. If it was able to break through all these things, depending on how much energy you end up getting, you're really talking about potentially hitting, the top of the arc. Bottom of the arc, and even potentially the top of the arc over here. Now, if I bring back the Fibonacci levels to see whether or not there's some confluence levels up here, it seems like there are, right? And definitely the cloud is very, very similar to the 0.5 Fibonacci extension level around here, around 42, 43, right? And definitely in the 0.618 around 52.76, going to be around this horizontal line over here, right? So it's able to break up through these very important Fibonacci levels. You potentially hit some of the higher targets, potentially around 133 to 213 around the arc right around here, depending when the cycle ends, right? And depending on how much juice you have. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for Mara. Now I do want to also go through Bitfarms here on this video because they have very, very similar look in terms of their morphology, in terms of what they're trying to do. But right now, whenever Bitfarms go really far, it gets really far ahead. Whenever it breaks down low, it gets much lower than Mara. So I think this is maybe almost like a leverage play for Mara, if you will. But even the morphology looks very, very similar. You got a little bit of like a inverted head and shoulder pattern, and breakout and kind of breakdown. And it's just been ranging between, again, it's very similar from Fibonacci levels, right? 0.382 and 0.136. That's exactly what the Fibonacci levels were for Mara when it was ranging up and down, right? Now we're at the bottom of the range, so I anticipate it to potentially hit the top of the range. And if you just look at the morphology of the candles, again, very similar to Mara, higher high, higher low, higher high, and higher low, right? This candle over here looks, relatively bottomy. We'll see how the month of May turn out to close, but I like this candle touching the Fibonacci level here to potentially be showing some bottoming behavior here. I'm gonna show again, I think if it hits the top of the range over here, it's gonna be 3.8, and I think it's very possible now that we're at the bottom of the range to suspect that it might hit the top of range here again, and then we'll figure out what it does when it gets there, because there has been a lot of supply that had already been eaten over here for about 3 or 4 months already, right? So maybe it's going to get a little bit weaker when it's trying to push through this resistance. Maybe resistance is going to be a little bit weaker, and we might be able to hit some of the higher Fibonacci level here, maybe at the bottom of this new cloud that's forming over here. Possibly a 0.5 Fibonacci level is just going to be 4.87, right? We'll see whether or not it can happen. We're going to talk a little bit about targets later. I just want to show you some of the indicators that I've been showing from before. If you pull back up the Tenkan Kijun line conversion and the baseline, you can see that we had a bullish cross, but price is currently below both of these, right? So that's not ideal. I like to see there's going to be a lot more resistance that Bitfarms is going to have compared to Mara. You're going to have the Tenkan, the Kijin on the monthly, unfortunately, right, to try to push through. And if you ask me, whether or not there's enough energy to kind of push through, I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But there's still a lot of things that there's going to be a lot more resistance for Bitfarms compared to Mara. So I'm not surprised in the short term over the next month or two, Bitfarms could lag behind Mara because there's a lot of technical damage that it needs to repair, right? So a couple of things here I want to show you in terms of resistance level. One was the Ichimoku cloud. The second one was going to be the anchor volume weighted average price, right? Right now, the anchor volume average price is going to serve as a little bit of resistance over here, right? How bad a resistance is going to be, I don't know. I mean, over here, it serves as resistance here for the month of October, but we're able to kind of push above it in November without any problems, right? But so far, there's still a resistance over here, right? So you have to pay attention to that. So it might move a little bit slower than Mara. If you do the bull market support band, you can see that the band is also above the price, so that can also serve as potential resistance, right? Currently it's around 2.3 to 2.1, that's where the band's located, and it could potentially serve as resistance. But again, over here you would think it serves as resistance, but it only take a month to kind of break above of it. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really that much worried about it. I like this Fibonacci level support level over here. I'm not really that much worried about it at this point, but it could lag behind, right? Another thing, as I move to weekly, I'm going to show you why I think we're at resistance. If you put up the 20-week, 50-week, and 100-week moving average, you can see that currently price is trying to break about the 50-week moving average, but maybe again we rejected there a little bit, right? It's positive sloping. I don't know how bad resistance is going to be. Usually positive sloping moving averages like this not going to serve as that bad of resistance. So I think potentially price just kind of push above it without any problem. But you do see that 20-week moving average, which again is a part of the market support band over here, is pointing down, and that could potentially push a lot of headwind in terms of Bitfarm prices. You might end up squeezing around here and go sideways for a month or two before going up further, right? Now, do we have enough momentum to try and push above all of these resistance over here, right? You're saying that, hey, there are a lot of resistance above. Down here, you've hit a Fibonacci level, so what? Are you going to be able to have enough energy to push back above? The answer is going to be, I think so. I'm also going to pull out the Black Hat fund flow trend over here. Also over here, you can see there's an increase in fund flow going up, even though price has been going down, right? So that tells me the wells have been accumulating for the last half a year or so. If you also look at the data from fintel.io in terms of accumulation, in terms of institutional ownership, it has really been drastically exponentially increased over a period of the last 6 months, even though price has gone down over the last 6 months, right? Institutional ownership also increased from a little less than 20%. Now they're getting close to 24%. So institutions are still buying. There's probably going to be some additional buying pressure that could come. And if you just look at the volume, like this whole downtrend has been a declining volume. And I think so far we're kind of, really trying to exhaust a lot of these kind of sellers. I think it's still quite positive. Again, buying volume up, selling volume down, buying volume up, selling volume down, right? So this is still a bull trend, higher lows, higher highs. But a couple other things too that I want to show you in terms of why I think that this chart still looks bullish. I can go pull up some of the other indicators here. The unbalanced volume on the 2-week, price gone up, unbalanced volume gone down, selling volume very, very much down, right? That means there's a lot of bullish energy that's building up over here. Because there's a very strong hidden bullish divergence with price going up and the OBV going down. This is a nice hidden bullish divergence there. Now, if I go to a different time frame, and let's say if I go to a weekly time frame, I'm also going to pull up the RSI over here, and what you're going to see is, you can also see this hidden bullish divergence, price gone up and the OBV gone down. You can see that bullish divergence here as well, and then you can also kind of see a little bit of the hidden bullish divergence of the RSI as well. Price gone up, and RSI just kind of reset. If anything, it's gone down a little bit, right? So all of this indicator is basically saying there's a lot of bullish energy that's being built up right here on the 2-week and weekly chart here with RSI and unbalanced volume. And on top of that, now I'm going to go back to 2 weeks over here. I'm going to pull up the cloud, the Ichimoku cloud over here. The Ichimoku cloud is probably not going to show you too much here, but if you put up the Super Ichi cloud, it's interesting. right now you're hitting a little bit of resistance here on the Kijun line is around 1.89. So again, a lot of resistance above, right? But on the other hand, it just bounced from the bottom of this Ichimoku cloud. So again, it's just been range bound. Whenever it bounces from the bottom of the cloud and you have declining selling volume, the next natural thing for it to do is potentially break above these resistance over the next weeks to a couple months. And the natural thing is going to be going back to the top of the cloud or even going back to the top of the range, which is going to be around 3.8. And it's going to break above, it could potentially hit the next FIB level around 4.8. Okay. So it's there are a lot of things that's kind of looking pretty decent. The bottom line is this: it's ranging. It's ranging between the 0.382 and the 0.136, just like what Mara's doing. But there's also a lot of really kind of hidden bullish energy that is building up for quite some time now that could potentially push price up higher. That's going to be the moral of the message. Now I'm going to finish with this video by showing you the Gann square chart that I drew. And I'm going to get rid of this Super Ichi cloud. I'm also going to get rid of the conversion line and the baseline over here, just to keep the chart a little bit cleaner over here. Now, going back to the Gann square that I drew over here, you can see that it's really looking pretty decent in terms of the number of points that it's touching. It tells a very, very clear story here in terms of what it's been doing in the last cycle as well as this cycle. You draw from the last cycle's bottom over here. What you're going to see is it's just basically got rejected here at the arc up here, right? And also got rejected here at the horizontal line over here around $8. And what it's been doing right after that is it's been trying to find support down here at the arc, right? But it broke down underneath the arc after testing it so many times. And as it broke down, or went to the next arc down here, to spend another few months, end up breaking down of that arc, going all the way down to the next original arc down here, found support, bounced pretty hard, right? And this is basically the cycle bottom that we have here, right? Bounced pretty hard, got back above this arc over here, right? Back tested the arc, found support, went up to the next arc, got rejected, found a back test level here at the angle, pushed through on high volume, and right now all it's really doing is doing a back test of this top of the arc right here. It looks like we're finding some support over here, right? So what is going to be the natural progression is going to go in after that, right? Natural progression is going to be trying to retest the line over here. It's going to be around 2.3, 2.4. The next level after it breaks about is probably going to be maybe the bottom of this newly formed Ichimoku cloud over here. Maybe around 4.7, 4.8, 4.6, somewhere around here, right? And if it breaks above that, it's going to be the arc right above that, which is going to be the high fives, right? After that, it's going to be another resistance level up here. It's going to be a previous high around $8. If it's able to break above all that, it can even potentially go up further to the next arcs up here, or maybe even to this angle over here, or maybe even to this horizontal zone right here, right? You really don't know how far it's going to go in terms of where it could go, but there are a lot of these different levels that it can go to, right? Now, if I superimpose this Gann square here with the Fibonacci level, again, this is just going to be a rough level here because I didn't really, put it precisely at the exact level. But what you're going to see here really, actually, no. There you go. So 1's right there, 0's right there. It makes more sense. Okay. So what you really see here is there might be a lot of kind of confluence area, again, around like, the 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 area. This here, if actually it was 4.97, right? So there's a lot of confluence area over here. Might be a resistance. If they have enough bullish energy, you kind of push above that. It might be another resistance up here around 6, another resistance up here around 8 to 7.6, around there. And they could break into like the arcs up here around like 15, or even go up higher to like 24, 27. It's all of these things are possible. Am I going to say that is going to happen? No. But it's important to know this, what kind of resistance levels there are based on Fibonacci levels and also based on the Gann square and the Gann arcs. Because I really do think that this arc is telling a very, very important story here, from it flipping from resistance to support from one arc to another. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.